Good morning and welcome to the Monday edition of the Blood Red Liverpool Daily Bulletin. I am Emmet and today I am joined by my Liverpool.com fellow colleague Dave Comerford. And Dave, yesterday was the opening day of the 2022 World Cup. I'm sure everybody tuned in for the big one, Qatar and Ecuador. But now on to the second day, and England are due to play later this afternoon against Iran. And we could see Liverpool duo Jordan Henderson and Trent Alexander-Arnold playing. What are your thoughts on England playing today, and how do you think that we will see Trent and Jordan Henderson play, or do you think they'll remain on the bench for Gareth Southgate?
Well, from what I've sort of read before the game, it looks like neither of them will start. Probably going to be Trippier at right back and maybe Shaw at left back in terms of Trent, and then Henderson was probably actually less likely to start, which I thought was kind of funny because all obviously the focus among Liverpool fans has been about, Trent and whether he should play, whether we want him to play, all that sort of thing. But then Trent's always had, I think, more of a chance of actually breaking into this 11 than Henderson, because if you look at Henderson sort of, I think I wrote an article about it the other day, there's been about sort of 35, 36 games since the Euros for England, and Henderson's only played started about 6 of them. So it says a lot about where he stands in the pecking order right now. Obviously, injuries playing a part in that, but so in terms of the part they'll play, I think Henderson is going to be viewed as somebody who can kind of come off the bench late on as a game management tool. Southgate will look at it and say he's got the experience, maybe the kind of cool head that we need, all that intangible stuff really in those situations. I think that was the role he kind of occupied at the Euros. And then Trent, I mean, if he's not going to start this game, potentially, it's they saw the game against the US on Friday. Would you say it'd be England's sort of easiest game of the tournament if he's not going to start this with no James in the squad, no Walker available? Then he probably isn't really going to figure at all, except maybe in kind of like a dead rubber scenario. So you could argue that's good news for Liverpool, but obviously on the flip side, I don't think it's really going to do Trent's confidence much good if he's sat on the bench for pretty much the entire tournament.
Yeah, I mean it's a difficult one to kind of read in a sense, because as you say, Trent really hasn't been in the best of form, this season. We all know that, but as you said, James is out, hasn't made the tournament. Kyle Walker, injured as well. So as you say, if he's not going to start against Iran, with all due respect to Iran, when is he going to start? So yeah, it's an interesting one to see what Gareth Southgate will what his 11 will be. And there's already controversy around that surrounding the armbands. But England remain, decisively they're going to wear the armbands today, which could end up, we could end up seeing 11 England players booked before a ball is kicked. Did you happen to see any of the game yesterday, the opening game?
I did, yeah. To be honest, I can't say it was a classic, but it was probably as good as you could possibly expect from that fixture at the same time, I would have thought.
Yeah, we've Bruce writing in here saying that has to been the worst opening game I've seen at a World Cup. To be fair to Bruce, he's probably right.
Yeah.
In all the World Cups that I've ever seen, that is probably, in terms of the opening game, that's as bad as it comes.
Yeah, it was. I think it was all right in the first half, and then the second, it was sort of, you were kind of watching the clock, waiting for it to kind of end, because I think both teams almost knew that it was going to finish 2-0. Like Ecuador weren't even really trying to go for a third, which I kind of think they should have, on the basis that, if they can, assuming the Netherlands win all their fixtures now, which isn't necessarily, something we should take for granted, seeing as Senegal are African champions, but if they do beat a Senegal side without Mane today, then it's probably going to come down to if Ecuador can get a draw with that Senegal team, then effectively it's going to come down to who beats Qatar by the biggest margin, because there'll be obviously goal difference after that. So, yeah, I'm slightly surprised it maybe didn't push for it a bit more, but yeah, it was there was a definite golfing quality there.
Yeah, massively. And obviously we're seeing, Virgil van Dijk in action today. The Netherlands taking on Senegal, which could have been a somewhat of a Liverpool derby with Sadio Mané, would have been representing Senegal. And unfortunately, Mané's had to pull out of the tournament now. But that looks like a good game. It would have obviously been a better game had Mané been available and playing. But how do you see that one going?
Well, I remember months back when the fixtures actually first came out, and I was like, so what we sort of got to look forward to in the first few days of the tournament, and this is one of the games I kind of like earmarked. It was going to be, sort of Van Dijk against Mane, which I think it would have just been really interesting to see, because like obviously these players are going up against each other in training from time to time at Liverpool, but we've never really seen them actually face each other properly. So it just would have been fascinating, I suppose, to see who kind of had the upper hand. Because, if Mane was to get the better of Van Dijk, then it's like, wow, Mane really is really is ridiculous. And then the same token for Van Dijk, if he's able to keep Mane quiet. So it's a shame. Senegal will still be able to carry a threat, and they've still got, sort of a lot of the key components obviously elsewhere in the team. But yeah, to lose your best player and your biggest sort of attacking force definitely swings it in favour of the Netherlands. And you just hope that Van Dijk can have a sort of a solid tournament, really, for two reasons. I think the first would be, that lift that would take him back to Liverpool, and probably inconsistent more from him at the start of the season. He has got marginally better from the early weeks, I think, but still not quite at his best. So if he can sort of find that form there, then could be the boost he needs. But I also think in terms of the wider sort of legacy discussions, and I think this with Alisson as well, if Van Dijk could win this tournament, and obviously Alisson's probably got a better chance, but Netherlands are definitely dark horses, the form they've been in pre-tournament, then that's the kind of thing that cements you as one of the greatest, if not kind of the greatest in your position, because rightly or wrongly, we do use sort of collective accomplishments. We use team trophies to determine individual greatness in terms of like the wider discussion. So that's what I think is up for grabs. Obviously, he's playing his first, I think it's his first major tournament, not just first World Cup, at the age of 31. So this is kind of the only one. I mean, even when the Euros comes around in 2024, he's going to be, obviously a couple of years older. So this is the one I feel like he'd have to target and say he's closest to his prime in this one, if not at his absolute best. And the one he has to sort of try and maximise from an individual point of view, as well as obviously captain in the Netherlands.
Yeah. So how far do you think the Netherlands can go? Do you think they can make a deep run in the tournament, or do you think they could be, quarterfinal, semi-final at best?
Well, I don't think you can underestimate the importance of like carrying confidence into the tournament. You look at England, and they've, I think they've lost to Hungary twice. They've not won sort of any of their last 6 games, something like that. They're entering the tournament with, I think, a lot of questions and a little bit of trepidation. Whereas, if you're a Netherlands fan, you're just going to be, I think, really excited that they're on a 15-game unbeaten run. They're obviously back at the tournament. And, we saw Italy. I think they were sort of 22 games unbeaten going into the Euros, and we saw the difference that made for them, even though they might not have been regarded before the tournament as, the absolute strongest team in terms of the individuals that they had. So I think that's a big factor. But in terms of how far they can go, I think if you look at the bracket and both teams win their groups and get through the round of 16, then it'll probably be the Netherlands against Brazil in the last 8, which would obviously be another kind of LFC derby. And that one might be sort of a bridge too far for them, but it'll be a close game. And yeah, I definitely don't think they can be ruled out. My prediction right now would be that they make the quarters.
Yeah. I mean, that's the thing when it comes to World Cups. It is very much, there's a lot of luck. Which key players are injured, not injured, available in good form. There's so many ingredients that go into a good, World Cup run. So yeah, we'll see how the tournament unfolds. But so just switching slightly, just to normal Liverpool non-World Cup news. Obviously the takeover news is kind of, or the potential takeover news, should I say, has kind of gently faded into the background. But we saw last week that FSG co-founder has come out and said that they are exploring all options in terms of the sale. But obviously, he said, they've come out and said that there's no rush. It's the strategy that was in place for Jurgen Klopp in Liverpool in terms of buying players is going to remain unchanged for the foreseeable future. What are your thoughts on the any potential takeover, and do you think it'll be sorted soon, or do you think this will be something that could maybe go on for a couple of years? It might not even happen at all.
I think all of that's possible. I mean, there's good news and bad news, I think, with the noises we had last week. The good news is there probably won't be an effect on Liverpool's transfer business. Although, as some people have said, given that the club is only investing money that it generates anyway, rather than FSG necessarily putting money in themselves, and maybe that wasn't going to be an issue. The concern that I have is just I don't like the idea of the club sort of being for sale for 2.5 years, something like that, before there's a resolution. Because as much as FSG can say, that it will be business as usual, I just don't really want that sense of instability and that air of uncertainty hanging over the club. That doesn't really feel to me like it's going to be conducive to success. So whatever is going to happen, I'd rather it kind of progress at a decent pace, or at least you know where it's going, rather than just kind of sitting in limbo a little bit. So FSG don't appear to be in a rush, but I'm hoping that we kind of see kind of concrete steps within the not too distant future, hopefully.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. This could be an issue that's unresolved and just lingering in the background for an uncertain period of time. So, as you say, it probably will be better for everyone if it was wrapped up, definitively sooner rather than later. But that's all we've time for today, Dave. Thanks for joining. Thanks to everyone for writing in and listening, and we'll see you all again tomorrow.